it's Kris. Thanks for tuning in. I just want to say real quickly that what you're going to find here is strictly a review for Founders of Gloomhaven. You're not going to see any gameplay, nor will you see anything about a rules teach. If you want stuff like that, I highly recommend Paul Grogan's video on gaming rules for how to learn how to play this game, Founders of Gloomhaven. And if you want to see a playthrough, Heavy Cardboard did one during the Kickstarter, and it's a perfect example. So if you want those things, please check out those channels. If you want a review, watch this video right here. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Double Down Dice. I'm Jay.
Kris.
Ed.
Thank you for watching. We're going to review Founders of Gloomhaven. I have only played this game once. You guys have played it a few more times than I have.
I've got 3 full plays and a partial solo play.
Okay. I think it's a good game overall. Let's talk about component quality. The components are great. You've seen the pictures on BGG and on the Kickstarter page. Everything's nice and thick. The meeples, unique meeples for each faction are great. I had a few problems with some of the graphic design choice, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Overall, though, it's one of those games where you go in expecting one thing and you get something else. I was expecting a city builder, but it is ultimately a logistics game with a city builder theme kind of wrapped around it. So I would, with all games like that,
way behind it.
I would absolutely recommend that you have to play this game first before buying it. My biggest problem with the game is that there were mechanics in the game that weren't utilized a lot while we were playing the game, and I feel that a game shouldn't do that. But there were some problems that I had with the game, and I don't like to begin with that, but there were. And there were parts of the game, especially the worker placement game, other prestige buildings, that kind of really wasn't utilized, and no one ever did it. And it feels like it's kind of a waste of a mechanic if no one uses it in the game. And I felt that the recruit action in order to get more cards into your hand, which works great for all the other games that have, like, it's handed cards and you play. Like, it works great in Concordia, it works great in Race for the Galaxy. But in this one, it feels that the recruitment kind of get bogged down from the logistics limitation on it. And it felt to slow the game down rather than make it more interesting. And these guys will expand on what I have to say about it.
Yeah, so I like logistics games.
He's a really interesting person.
The very first game that we played together, I was very excited because I was like, okay, I have to get this resource connected to that resource so I can build a 2nd tier resource or a 3rd tier resource. Mm-hmm. That, like, to me was really exciting. I'm like, yeah, chain connections. I'm very excited about that.
The trickle down.
Well, yeah, the way that you score is when one of the prestige buildings is out and there is a connection, a logistic chain. You score, but it trickles down to the resources for each of those ones. It's pretty cool, I think. I had no problem with that, because the choice of where you put it is like, do I want to make someone else work for their points? And, you know, when they work for their points, they have to give me points because they're connecting to it, and I'm connected to it ultimately because I placed it in a good position. But the problems stem from, for me, the worker placement aspect. Now, there is a variant in the rulebook that says you can play without workers at all. Like, you can play on the B side. And I think that should be the standard, to be honest. I think the option should be for workers, not for it to be no workers. The problem is that every prestige building that comes out and you vote on has an action on it for a worker placement action. Yeah, okay? But the problem is that a lot of them are not that interesting, or they're not as powerful as the cards that are in your hand already. So you're kind of like, well, I'll just take $1. I'd rather take a Gloom Bloom than put my worker there because I don't have enough economy right now to actually fully utilize an action.
Yeah.
So the problem is that some of the buildings are that you don't have the resources in order to utilize them, or in some cases they're just not attractive.
Almost exclusively. Then there's a single building which is.
Well, there's some, like converting your fleeting influence into permanent, lasting influence is points. Yeah. That could be you had a ton of lasting or
I
fleeting influence.
I cheated on that round, so I didn't.
Oh, okay. If you had it, you could have converted and it would have been fine. But the other problem I have, that's the major one I have.
Yes.
The worker placement part of the game is superfluous. I hate it. Actually, I'm gonna say you have all the cards come out and you never all the games I've played. We don't use any of the actions except maybe once or twice.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah,
I used it.
Yeah, but I meant even in our other games. Yeah. But the other problem is the recruit action. It's cool. You can recruit advisors, which brings cards to your hand.
And that should improve your hand, like any deck builder would. That should make it.
Yeah, it should. Except that all the recruitments are just stronger versions of the card you already have. The problem I have with that is that there's not enough diversity among them. So a lot of the early on recruitments allow you to recruit more advisors. So you can recruit a guy that will let you recruit, or you can recruit a guy that lets you upgrade, which is fine. But ultimately, there's fewer guys that let you do trade actions. And trade, for those of you that are just watching,
it's the key action.
It's the heart of the game.
Is the heart of the game because you need to kind of work together. So someone is the owner of a resource, and then someone has access to the resource. And the trade lets you become an owner of your original resources or get access to other people's resources. So trade is really important in this game. And without those recruiters, advisors, I apologize, without the advisors allowing you to trade more regularly, it really hamstrings you because you're ending up playing the trade action and then you're like, well, shoot, I guess I have to call to vote to get all my cards back to do that trade action again. But the real problem I have with that bogged down action is that if other people are doing the trade action, you can only do it in 2 of the locations. In the red, which is the cheapest, or on the beach, which is the second cheapest. But you can't do it on the most expensive, which is the gravel area or the forest. And
60% of the board.
Yeah, most of the board is that area. And so when they do trade, you can never really fully follow. So if everybody's wisely putting their pieces on those expensive spots, they're never going to be able to give you the money to have access to your goods because when you play that trade card and they follow, it's impossible to ever get access to those resources, which is one of the problems I had was I wanted to in our game was to build further advanced resources, but I can't.
Breathe, Kris. Everything's okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just saying, don't touch the table. I'm fine is that it's just, like, you guys were like, well, I want to do this to speed up the time of the game. And I'm like, you can if I could just break this rule and just build in your
just like every logistics game is like that. I think it's more fun when you have access to more of the resources. You can build more and more and more, and your engine gets faster and faster and faster.
Right.
There's momentum in the game.
I just wish that I could just pay you for following in that action like everything else. Yeah. So those are my 2 major issues.
Yeah, I want to jump back in with the worker placement because like there's prestige buildings and the worker placement you could do with it. You have to put the cards somewhere other than the board, so you have to put them in some place where everyone can see. There's not even a cheat card that tells you what each building can do. You have to be leaning constantly all the time, looking at what all the cards do, and then maybe if you put a worker there, if you have access to the building, if you could put it there. And there's no way to track that, and it becomes kind of a wasted mechanic.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like we've said, like they're just cards there on the table.
Yeah. So my take on that is that I won the last game, which I should never beat. Yeah, I won a game, the whole game. I should never beat Kris at a logistics game, which says something about the game. And I played it a few times, and I realised that pretty much everything about it doesn't need to be there. It is a colours and shapes game, so I can ignore almost everything. I can ignore the worker placement, I can ignore the recruit action. So the only thing I'm doing is trade action, and the only thing I'm doing is linking up roads and resources. So the pink goes to the blue, and if I get a pink and a blue, and I get a whatever, that kind of logistics thing. Which actually, fine. I'm not really a logistics fan, but that side of it, if you take out it all, that was fine.
And you were
And,
killing the whole game.
Yes, and I got it. I got the puzzle. It's a puzzle. The game is a puzzle, and it's a puzzle of where to slot what. And you, but the fact that you can ignore so many aspects of the game is a major problem, and that's how I won the game, because I didn't pay any attention to those buildings because they don't do anything, and I didn't ever recruit.
Well,
because
that's not totally true. I will point out that in that game you did get 2 people that you recruited. You recruited 2 advisors, and they're the only ones that allowed trade ones.
Yes.
Yeah. So he monopolized trade. So even though he says this, he's lying. He still needed those guys. But the point is that the only other benefit, if you can't really maximize those advisors, is that they count as income when you call to vote because you have more cards in your hand.
But then, in order to get that extra 1 Gloom Bloom, we've decided they're called Gloom Blooms. Where you can get 1 Gloom, is sort of, you have to spend an action in order to get that 1. You might as well spend the action just passing and taking a Gloom Bloom. So that, I don't think that's a good.
No,
that's not a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
So it is. I mean, Kris doesn't mind about theme. I think there are lots of people who do care about theme. I think in particular, this game says Gloomhaven on it, and this has nothing to do with.
Well, actually, if you look, it's only like 1% of
the
rest is found.
The designer admitted this has got very little to do with Gloomhaven, so he's on board with all that. But no, if you like Gloomhaven, you're gonna. This game has nothing to do with that. So it's not they. And
they have the races, but that's
So the one of the problems with that is why is theme important? You could take theme way down to racial abilities. Why does it matter that I'm the lizard people and you're the elf people? Because it's the racial ability, and the racial ability on each person's card is only so. Only some races have a decent ability. The previous game I played, I had a good ability, so that meant I was using my racial ability.
The asymmetry is weak.
Yes, the asymmetry is extremely weak. So apart from the fact that the worker placement action is already weak, you're probably not going to use your racial ability.
And you won the game without using your racial ability once.
Yes. So therefore, me being the elf people and you being orcs or whatever has nothing to do with anything. It was all about linking up the things.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I think I do want to point out that Founders is significantly larger than Gloomhaven.
It's another thing where you would have to. I would recommend again to play the game before you buy it, because I don't think the theme would be enough. And this is someone who loves theme, and I think theme is important. That I don't think the theme is strong enough for you to love the game despite of its flaws.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
And all of us like Gloomhaven. So.
Yeah. So here's the thing with theme. Who cares? For me. So if you're a guy who's like, I love themes, listen to these dweebs. But if you're like me, a real man of the world, you're gonna be like, theme schmeen. Okay, but here's the thing. For me, the city building is there in that I'm putting pieces. It's nothing like, small city here. That's a lot more of building a city. Yeah. This one is a logistics game. So with that, I mean, if you know what you wanted to say, otherwise.
Yes. So the one of the problems with that lack of theme is the replayability. There is because each of the races are all the same, and it's just essentially a math puzzle that they are fundamentally, because you're going to ignore the things that are different. So the races is essentially the same. It's all about linking the colours together. So there's colours and numbers. The game is the game is just colours and numbers.
But if you just change it, if you just change the terminology, someone watching is not going to be able to follow that.
Okay.
So resources.
Okay, resources. Yes, the resources, which is a pattern puzzle, are. But there's also a replayability issue with the fact that all the buildings, the prestige buildings, are the same, and you're going to see all the same prestige buildings every game.
Yeah, almost.
This isn't a major problem from a logistics point of view, because then because you can see the shape and the color combinations. So logistically, this isn't a huge major problem. because they are going to come out in a slightly different order.
Yeah.
So when you take the points, and there is a sort of slight race mechanic where you try to get to the thing first.
To score the resource points, yeah.
Yeah. So, but replayability, like I said, it's not.
To add on that,
Yeah.
what you're saying, one weird thing is the placement requirements.
Yeah.
So some buildings that are the same prestige buildings, actually all the buildings, like your resources, there's 3 segments on the map, and a resource type can only be present in that section once.
Yeah.
So it would have to be built 3 times across the map to be in all 3 sections. Of course, roads allow you to build up to those things, so they could be ideally in one spot on the entire map and linked to everything. But the weird thing is the prestige buildings have a requirement. So no prestige building that has the same color or shape can be in the same sector. So it has like some weird placement issues with that, which is fine in that.
That's fine. I mean,
no, it's fine. It just feels weird that like you're like, okay, this is the building. Okay, it can only go here. Like, this is the only spot it could possibly go. But we voted it in because that's how it happened. But for me, the major problem with the requirements for placement is your personal building. So each player is given access to 3 bridges or 3 gates. Gates let you go through a wall, bridge lets you cross the river, okay? You have access to 3 of those, and they have the same, they have a bridge on one side and a gate on the other, so you choose where it goes. But the real problem is your personal buildings, which gives you access to workers.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that you can put workers on the cards that you're not going to use. Just kidding. But the prestige building, personal building, can only go in the forest, which makes Ed and I really angry because we think that you could use it anywhere on the map and use it to block people or force them to have to build longer roads.
It becomes, therefore, another superfluous feature. There's so many superfluous features of this game. You just like have a personal building, and I was playing it. We played it where I just chucked it on the board because it doesn't really matter where it goes.
Well, as long as it's in the forest.
I can't let it affect play. I can't make it affect play, so it's superfluous.
Yeah. So I would put it in the forest when you threw it on the board. I'd be like, there, done.
Yeah.
So this is double down dice, and our rule is, what do you double down? Do you double down on this game, or are there is there another game or other games that you would prefer?
The whole time the first time I got the hands and you were explaining to me how to play the game, I'm like, oh sure, it's just like Concordia, like Race for the Galaxy, where I play a card, everyone can follow. I play all my cards, and I don't have any cards anymore. I play the one card that gets all the cards back in my hand. I've played that game before, and I would rather play like Concordia or Race for the Galaxy that does that kind of mechanic and style better. But I'm not a big fan of. I haven't played enough logistic games for me to really enjoy them. There aren't that many.
I'm not going to offer a double down because I'm not a logistics guy. The market for this game is this guy. So.
Right. So building on that, the connection to Concordia is strictly the playing cards from your hand to do an action, and the ability in this is a little different. Everybody can follow your action, where in Concordia you have to play a specific card to follow somebody's action. But like Concordia, you can purchase new cards to your hand, which are just the same cards already there, but the difference between this game is that you get points from your cards from their values, and in Concordia they score differently at the end of the game. In this game, the cards in your hand don't matter for scoring. And the last thing is the logistics. So there's a lot of comparison with the Great Zimbabwe, which is actually physically behind Founders here. The Great Zimbabwe is from Splatterspielen, and it's been reprinted a few times. This, I think, is the second or third printing.
It's slightly hard to get hold of.
Yeah, it's hard to get a hold of, unless you want to pay like $100. So if you can't have access to this, or you're not willing to pay for this, maybe Founders is for you, because it might be like $40 or $30. But in all honesty,
Concordia, you said Concordia,
right? Well, that's the thing, is I'd probably rather play Concordia or the Great Zimbabwe. And I have a few other games that are logistics, but in terms of like putting up like buildings and like having access to resources that allow you to build the second tier, third tier resources, I would go with this one. So yeah, for me, I'm gonna say that there's other games I'd rather play. I don't hate this game, I will say that. There's things about it that I find frustratingly superfluous, but overall I think maybe with like heavy house ruling, but which is something I don't do.
I don't like that either. Yeah. I guess my biggest problem with that one game and listening to you guys talk about it and seeing how the game plays, because I've played more games than I own. I own well over 100 games, and every time you have a tableau builder or an engine builder, you want momentum in the game. You want to be able to build things faster and faster and faster. And I found that Founders does have that, but you stagnate so quickly. Right? Because most of it is done with the trading, and that's done with money. So if you're not getting a steady income of money, if your opponents aren't doing the call to vote, if people aren't trading with you, then you're just gonna have to got my energy going, and I'm waiting for money, got money, I built, and now I'm waiting for more money, and it kind of ruins the rhythm of the game.
Yeah, I mean, the superfluity of so much of this game is unforgivable.
Superfluity.
Yeah,
Superfluity.
Superfluity of much of this game is inexcusable for me. I'd rather play any other game, because this game is so much this game that. Except Code Triage.
I will say
because there's just so much about this game that just doesn't. It's just
unnecessary.
Yeah, you just place anything else. It just doesn't.
Play Gloomhaven.
Sure.
I like Gloomhaven. Yeah, I do think that I haven't ever had problems with economy, which I've noticed in games other people have. I think it's just the way that I play my cards and how I do it. But
it's a logistics guy.
But yeah, it really is. It really is like, I need income. Well, I don't really need income. I'm okay for now. I get by on no money, just fine.
So there we are. That is our very positive review of Founders of Gloomhaven.
Play before you buy. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely play before you buy. Anyway, thanks for watching Double Down Dice. I'm Kris.
I'm Jay.
I've been Ed, and we will still be Double Down Dice.
Yeah. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube page.
And I'll put the links below. Adios.
Cheers.